Okay, we've got another long answer here that's dealing with intermolecular forces. So we have 4 parts, really 4 questions. The first one says structures of the pyridine molecule and the benzene molecule are shown below. Pyridine is soluble in water, whereas benzene is not soluble in water. Account for the difference in solubility. So what are we looking at here? What's the difference? The difference between pyridine and benzene is this nitrogen atom, right? We've got that nitrogen atom and we've got that lone pair. So what's that going to do to the solubility? Well, we know like dissolves like, right? Things dissolve with things are miscible when they can interact with one another, when they can make electrostatic interactions. So when something is polar, like water, right? Water is a polar molecule. The only things that will dissolve in water are things that can interact with water, that can make dipole-dipole interactions or hydrogen bonds or something like that. And benzene can't do that. Benzene's a hydrocarbon, right? So this is non-polar. It has a pi system of molecules, but that's not enough to get this to be water soluble. Whereas pyridine can do this, right? This lone pair is going to interact with the partial positive side of the net dipole of water molecules, right? We've got partial plus, we've got electron excess and electron deficiency. When you have that, you're going to have an electrostatic interaction. So these interactions, right, the presence of this nitrogen atom, which first of all, that also does make slightly polar NC bonds. So there is a little bit of a dipole now to this molecule, whereas this is strictly nonpolar. But that, and then in addition, we can get these hydrogen bonds where we've got a lone pair interacting with the hydrogen atoms on the water molecules. So that's why pyridine is water soluble, whereas benzene is not. Now, B, structures of dimethyl ether and ethanol. We have those here. The boiling point of dimethyl ether is 250 K, whereas for ethanol, it's 351 K. Account for the difference in boiling points. So this is an interesting one because these are structural isomers, right? They are both C2H6O. So they have identical masses. So mass can have nothing to do with it, right? We know that the greater the mass, the harder it is for it to boil, right? Because we need more kinetic energy to move something that's heavier. So, but mass cannot have anything to do with it here. They have identical masses. So what are we noticing in terms of functional groups? So here we've got oxygen. This is an ether. So we've got oxygen between 2 carbon atoms. Whereas over here, ethanol has an OH group, right? It's an alcohol. It's got a hydroxyl group. And so this can do hydrogen bonds, right? So this can do dispersion, mainly dispersion. It also has a weak dipole. So it can do some slight dipole-dipole interactions. But it cannot do what ethanol can do. So the H bonds are the reason. This is the reason this boils so much higher, because the ethanol molecules are making hydrogen bonds with one another, right? We've got an OH on one, and then we'll do right C2H5. So we've got interactions here, right? These are very strong. Right? These hydrogen bonds are very, very strong. And so we're going to need a lot more heat energy in order to overwhelm these hydrogen bonds and liberate ethanol into the gas phase. Right? The stronger the interactions, the lower energy they sit at. And so the more energy that will be have to supply to bring them up to the gas phase where they are not interacting. Remember the difference between liquid and solid. Liquid, particles are interacting. Gas, they essentially are not. They're far away. Right, so the stronger the interactions, the lower they sit on an energy diagram, and the more energy we'll have to supply to bring them up to where they are not interacting anymore. Right, we have to compensate for that lower energy that is due to the electrostatic interaction. So the stronger the interactions, the higher they boil. This one, because oxygen is not connected directly to hydrogen, it does not have the capacity for hydrogen bonding. This one does. That would be the reason. Now, SO2 melts at 201 K, whereas silicon dioxide, sulfur dioxide versus silicon dioxide melts much, much higher, dramatically higher. So accounting for the difference here. So what we need to understand is that SO2, we've got discrete molecules that look like this, right? And so when it's a liquid, they're all moving around, and then as a gas, they're all separate and they're flying around. And so that has a particular melting point. But SiO2, this is a network solid. It's a network solid. So we need to understand that this is not a discrete molecule the way SO2 is. We've got silicon, oxygen, and then it's silicon and oxygen, a whole grid, a whole lattice of silicon and oxygen atoms that are covalently bound. So this is a network solid, and all of these covalent bonds are very, very, very strong. So in order for SO2 to boil, we have to disrupt the intermolecular forces between SO2 molecules, right? The slight dipole-dipole interactions that they're making. Whereas to boil SiO2, we have to disrupt covalent bonds. We have to break covalent bonds to get all of those atoms pulled apart. And it's very hard to break covalent bonds, much harder than just electrostatic interactions like dipole-dipole interactions. So it's going to boil way higher because we would need so much energy to break all of the covalent bonds in this whole lattice, right? So here we're talking about different kinds of bonding in the substance. So that's why. And then lastly, the normal boiling point of chlorine is higher than the normal boiling point of hydrochloric acid or hydrogen chloride rather in the liquid phase if we're not aqueous. So what is the difference in these? What accounts for the difference in these boiling points based on the type of intermolecular forces in the substances? So they're talking about intermolecular forces because one reason is mass. Right, if we have Cl2, right, Cl2 is much heavier than HCl, right? Let me actually make it bigger. Right, HCl versus Cl2. Cl2 is much, much heavier, so that's part of the reason it boils higher. But we're talking about the types of intermolecular forces specifically. So what are we understanding here? Yes, this might be a little confusing, right? If we did not know which one boiled higher, it would be difficult maybe to predict because we know that HCl can participate in dipole-dipole interactions, whereas Cl2 cannot, right? So this does make dipole-dipole interactions. However, here it does end up coming down to dispersion because this is just so much bigger, right? A chlorine atom is so much bigger than a hydrogen atom that its electron cloud is so much more polarizable that it makes much, 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 much larger momentary dipoles and therefore induced dipoles. So here, it's not that huge of a difference. I mean, it's a good chunk, but it's because despite the fact that this can do dipole-dipole interactions, Cl2 is so much larger because that chlorine atom is so much larger than a hydrogen atom that the dispersion interactions end up being so much more significant that is what brings the boiling point up for Cl2. So that's that one. And with all of these, we definitely must, well, we obviously must be aware of what all the intermolecular forces are. We must be able to identify which substances can do which of them, which ones can do, everything can do dispersion, which ones can do hydrogen bonding or dipole-dipole, whatever it is. We need to recognize which can do what, and which can do which ones. And then we need to be able to compare relative strengths. Right, we need to know that hydrogen bonding will be a stronger electrostatic interaction than the dipole-dipole interactions over here. We need to know that the covalent bonds in a network solid are much stronger than the intermolecular attractions between SO2 molecules. We needed to know that here, even though dipole-dipole interactions tend to be stronger than dispersion interactions, here it wasn't enough. This was so much larger that it was the increase in dispersion interactions that ended up tipping the scale for Cl2. So that's a nice one on intermolecular forces.